Hello everyone, and welcome to this presentation with Dr. Jerry Cataro of Fordham University. It is my honor to present to you this topic on priests' commitment to fostering Catholic schools' mission and identity. Catholic schools has been part of the fabric and history of the United States of America. Missionaries, priests, and nuns who came to this country educated millions of people. Of today, we still witness the success of the story for those public and private officials running big companies, private companies, and corporations, even in public offices, serving this great nation. Walk said, "As long as there are parents and pastors interested in parochial education, these schools, meaning to say Catholic schools, will survive." And that is a very prophetic line. However, recently there was an article wrote about Catholic schools that says the era of parochial school, at least in the form that dominated Catholic education in recent memory, is over. That sounds sad, yet it speaks to us the challenges of Catholic schools in America. Why is it this Catholic schools is essential today? The Congregation for Catholic Education warns the danger of cancel culture by destabilizing institutional families and communities. The Congregation on Catholic School Education or on Catholic Education still believe the mission of Catholic schools to form the mind and heart of young people. However, only 0.6% of priests are directly engaged in Catholic school education as teachers or administrators. And we wonder what happened. Why is it a lot of these priests are not in Catholic schools? Probably we know the answer. But the reason that this study is important, it raises the question of why priests are important. And studies have shown that priests have limited exposure to Catholic school education and administration. This is a study conducted in 2017. So in this study, in this presentation, we basically ask who are the priests in terms of Catholic schooling in the United States. What is Catholic school identity? And what are the commitment of this priest to fostering this Catholic school identity? Because priest comes from different cultural backgrounds, we might ask the question, is priest race or ethnicity essential in supporting or fostering Catholic schools' mission and identity? And so this presentation will ask these following questions. The first question, is there a statistical difference between diocesan and religious priests' assessment of Catholic school identity? Second, is there a statistical difference between priests' race and ethnicity in assessing Catholic school identity? Third, is there a statistical difference between priests' ordination cohorts' assessment of Catholic school identity? And finally, to what extent do priests' assessment of Catholic school identity predict their level of commitment to fostering Catholic school identity? In order to answer these questions, we conducted a study in 2021 in the midst of pandemic. So the methods, we conducted an online survey of all of priests in the northeastern archdioceses or diocese of this country. In order to complete the number of participants, we also conducted a snowball sampling to have 160 participants for the entire study, and we use IBM SPSS version 28 to analyze the data. The 160 priests who participated, those 160 are complete data of priests participated, composed of 13.1% religious and 86.9% diocesan. The demographics of these priests are from Asian descent, 10%, Black or African American, 3.1%, Hispanic or Latino, 12.5%, white, the majority, or the significant majority I would say, is 74.4%. The participants were asked the question from the instrument created by Ozar and O'Neill in 2012 in the National Standards and Benchmark for Successful and Effective Catholic Secondary and Elementary Schools. And we focused in this instrument, we simply focused on mission and Catholic identity aspect because it has other domains. But here we only focus the mission and Catholic identity. And one of the questions that I give you here is, the symbol of Catholic faith are displayed throughout the Catholic schools. This is one of the questions that the priest answered, that they rated the statement from 1, strongly disagree, to 5, strongly agree. The next also instrument that we used is the British Organizational Commitment Scale by Cook and Wall in 1980. Basically, this is for business. However, we adapted this for this study using to priests. And so we conducted the study, and so we have this commitment to fostering Catholic school identity as our adapted instrument, and from Cook and Wall data instrument. And so priests rate this statement: in my ministry, I like to feel that I am making some effort to foster Catholic school identity. And priests will rate the statement from 1, strongly agree, disagree, to 7, strongly agree. So basically, those are the instruments and the participants we employed in order to answer our 4 basic questions for this presentation. And so, what do we find in the field? And this is what we find. Question 1. Is there a statistical difference between diocesan and religious priest commitment assessment of Catholic school identity? The result says there is no statistical significant difference in Catholic school identity assessment between diocesan and religious priest. Because some people say that maybe religious priests will rate the assessment highly because most of them are trained in Catholic schools. But the study, the result, there's no difference. And this graph, the bar graph shows us that here the diocesan priest estimate out almost up 3.9 or 4 in the rating scale, and religious is 3.8 in the rating scale. But there are 3.99 to be exact and 3.88. But there are no significant difference, meaning to say that the assessment of priests, either diocesan or religious, in terms of Catholic school identity, there's no significant difference. So meaning to say we can rely in our data, in our interpretation, that priests, regardless of diocesan or religious, has a high level, I would say, of assessment of Catholic school identity. And this is the result. 30% of the priests strongly agree on the statement. 46.9% agree on the statement of Catholic school identity. So here we could almost infer that on average, 30% strongly agreed and 46.9% agreed on the statements of Catholic school identity. And these are significant findings. In question number 2, is there a statistical difference between priests' race and ethnicity in assessing Catholic school identity? The answer is there is no statistical difference in priest assessment of Catholic school identity in terms of their ethnicity, meaning to say that regardless that the priest is Asian, African American, Hispanic or Latino, or white or Anglo-American, there are no difference in their assessment of Catholic school identity. And if you see here, however, in this graph, you will see that Asian is above 4.0 in the rating, and Black African American is above Asian. However, the caution here, because this is not well represented in this study, maybe that kind of bias there, but also Hispanic is the lowest, has the lowest assessment of Catholic school identity, which is less than about 3.8, and the white is still in 4. This is really critical because once you keep this Hispanic number going down and this going up, there's a sense of disparity in ministry or understanding Catholic school identity. So on average, priest, race, or ethnicity agreed on the statements regarding Catholic school identity. The third question, is there a statistical difference between priests' ordination cohort's assessment of Catholic school identity? As we know, priests, not just coming from different ethnic backgrounds, but also come to the priesthood late in their lives. So for example, late vocations. And so we would like to know, is when they were ordained, would there be a difference also in their assessment of Catholic school identity? The result indicates no statistical difference in priest ordination cohorts assessments of Catholic school identity. So meaning to say, whether you are lately ordained later in life, or you've been new to the priesthood, priest has almost the same way of understanding Catholic school identity. However, we have to be cautious with this finding, because later on we'll find that the younger the priest, the commitment or the assessment of Catholic school identity is lower. You see here, you notice 3.9 compared to ordained in before 1981 or the post-Vatican II priest, it's 4.1 above. Now this is critical also in our finding, because once you keep this younger generation of priests declining in their assessment of Catholic school identity, then the farther they are also removed from committing to Catholic school or fostering Catholic school's mission and identity. So although, as I've said, although these findings there are no difference, but it is important for us to notice that the decline in support is here present among the so-called post-millennial priest compared to post-Vatican II priest. So in general, religious and diocesan priests, priest ordination cohort, and race, ethnicity have no significant difference on Catholic school's identity assessment in our study. And the last or the final question in this presentation is, to what extent do priest assessment of Catholic schools' identity predict their level of commitment to fostering Catholic school identity? Remember that we would like to know if priest assessment of Catholic school identity, if it is positive, right? If it is positive, then we would like to know if it has also influenced their commitment to fostering Catholic school identity. And the answer is, priest perception of Catholic schools identity statistically significantly predicted the level of commitment to fostering Catholic school identity. What does it mean? That when priest assessment of Catholic school identity is higher, the chance or the probability of supporting or fostering Catholic school's mission and identity is also high. So therefore, those things goes together. You cannot just support, you cannot just a high assessment and not support. So they go together. So that these findings is also, the result is critical, because this will help us to understand better the dynamics of priests' education and training for them to foster Catholic school's mission and identity. Now, this is basically the graph of priest level of commitment to fostering Catholic school identity. 32%, 30.5% strongly agree or strongly commit to foster Catholic school identity, and 31.9%. That's interesting, because you don't need hundreds of priests to be more educated or acquainted in Catholic schools, but you should be able to identify those priests in your presbyterate that could be a good leader or qualified leader for a parishes with schools or for your diocesan school educational ministry. Furthermore, the result indicates that Catholic school identity explained 42% of the variance in commitment to fostering Catholic school identity. As I've said, the higher the assessment in Catholic school identity, the higher also is the chances that the priest will foster commitment for Catholic school's mission and identity. So those are the findings that we find in our data. Now, if I'll bring this to you, it's up to you to go for discussion. The data is the data. However, we can use the data to direct us in our discussion, in our quest, in our search for the best practices in the archdiocese, in the diocese, or in this country, not just to make the Catholic school thrive, but to be more successful, to be more influential in today's society, as promised by, as taught by the Congregation for Catholic Education. So the result is critical, and the data, the gap between, connecting the gap between the data and the practice, the data will inform us to have good practices. We also notice in the data that there's a growing diversity and cultural background of priests. Add to the mix of the need for enculturation, not just for the priest from foreign country who comes here to study and ordained or incardinated, but also for those priests that are coming from public school here in this country, because maybe they have a different of understanding of Catholic schools identity. And in terms of race, as we said, there's no significant difference, but here is also the key that educating the priest should be for all. Sometimes you have priests who come to our presbyterate to have talents, gifts and talents, and we have to hone them. We have to encourage them, and we have to find their niche in our diocese so that they could be more, they could not just explore their ministry, but also they could be more, enhance their talents for the evangelization, especially in the ministry on education. In general, diocesan priests find it valuable to continue Catholic schooling because of its influence in sustaining American Catholic faith communities. It's almost that some priests in the survey, because at the end I asked them some open-ended question about Catholic schools. They really find it encouraging to have Catholic school in the parish because it kind of support the parish life, and we have to be more. We have to listen to that because there are truth into that statement. So priests understand of Catholics' identity and mission increase their level of commitment to fostering Catholic school identity. So this is what I've said a while ago, that as the priest commitment is high, also their assessment is high, their commitment could also be high. There's hope for the future. And for those of you who are involved in Catholic schools, in the chancery offices, in school offices, Priests are there to help you. Priests are there. However, sometimes they don't know how to help you because they don't know what Catholic schools is. Maybe that's why there has to be a way of, as Pope Francis said, accompanying together, walking together, so that we become ministers, not just in the parish level, but also for the entire community. From this research, what could be our recommendation? Integrate Catholic schools education development into seminary training and formation. And that's where we should start first, to educate seminarians to understand the history of Catholic schools in the United States of America, the importance of Catholic schools in the fabric and life of the parish. The Catholic schools, although there are problems in finances, it does not just simply bring problems, but also it could be a means for us to keep that evangelization thriving for the next generation. Educate seminarians on their future role in Catholic education, both formal and informal education. That in educating is not simply to know history, but also to give them a sense of a taste what is Catholic schools is when they were in the seminary. And also not just to know that the distinction or the difference, the complementarity, I would say, of Catholic schools and religious education. These two ministries doesn't fight with each other, they complement each other, and they should collaborate each other. When priest has a high and support for Catholic schools, there will be also high chances that he has a high regard for parish religious education. The archdiocese or the diocese should provide sustainable pastoral and professional education for priests according to their interest in ministry, while considering the essential role of Catholic schooling in American society. After seminary formation, education or formation doesn't stop. The diocesan level should provide a sense of a continuing education that encompasses everything, I would say. Not just personal development, but also assessing priest desire in ministry. Maybe there are priests who are more interested in administrative work, priests interested in school work, in pastoral work, different kind of things. There has to be a sense of a way to know their desire and their interest in ministry. And from that interest, we could provide training for them so that they could discover and deepen their talent to serve the people of God. Provide updated priest professional and pastoral profiles with their skills and talents for pastoral assignment. Basically, this is the work of, I would say, the human resource department of the archdiocese or the diocese. Because there, when you have the data for your priest, what are their qualifications? What are their records? What are the qualifications to do in ministry? Then you could identify them, train them, maybe enhance them, encourage them, and then there you have a right resources for your ministry. You don't just simply put people there because you like that person, he's nice, maybe yes, that's a good qualification, right? But at the end of the day, we should train our priest in doing this ministry, not just in parish level, but maybe in many things. And the demand of priesthood is high, yet we need them to train them also. Enhance priest professional and continuing pastoral education according to the interests of priests and the need of the local church. Maybe a particular diocese, there's a need of schools. So for example, in Midwest dioceses, they're building churches and schools. And then maybe you could provide training for priests for enhancing Catholic schools. However, maybe in the other parts of the country, there's a need for not maybe involving Catholic schools, maybe for other social advocacy, and priests could also do that. And priests is not just for one thing, but for everything. And that's why we need to train them, to equip them so that they will be effective. And also it will increase their morale, it will increase their engagement, it will increase their joy in fulfillment in the priesthood. So basically, these are the presentation that we kind of gather for you for this year's conference on for Catholic education. But because of the virtual presentation, you might view this again, and you could read this. We would like to suggest to you some point for discussion. Maybe you could have a group discussion or reflection in your school, in your wherever you work, and basic question: in your school or organization, was there a visible support of clergy, and to what extent? Do they just say mass and leave, or they just they make some suggestions to you, to the principal, to the organization, or maybe father would like to suggest, but he doesn't know what it is. Given the research evidence, what practical ways to collaborate with parish or schools for an authentic handling of the faith? These are more on practical level. Maybe we're thinking of how could maybe school officers, officials work with the parish, because today some priests or some parishes are separated from schools. They have schools next to the church, but sometimes the pastor has no relationship maybe or connection with the parish. How are we going to, with this data that are available to us, that priests are willing to support high assessment of Catholic schools, how are we going to tap father for that? Or maybe if father is not interested, belong to the 3%, then maybe you might suggest to the diocese, to the archdiocese, for priests who could really work with you in your ministry. As Catholic school leaders, to what extent would you welcome seminarians and priests to be deeply acquainted with and interested in Catholic schools? Do you know who is director of the seminar in your local diocese? And how are you going to work with that so that you could really start molding younger generation of priests to be more involved in the ministry of Catholic education? From your experience in Catholic school education, are there existing policies or programs that integrate Catholic school education awareness into seminary training or priest continuing formation? What are those? Maybe there's need for revision or updating to some extent. So we have to do that. Yeah, in the spirit of listening, using this data. This data is really critical in driving your updating of your data, of your strategy in your Catholic school ministry. So really, that's what I have today. Thank you very much for your attention, for your time to this presentation, Priest Commitment to Fostering Catholic Schools, Mission and Identity. And this presentation is from my dissertation in Fordham University, defended in 2021, last year in December, entitled Priest Leadership and Commitment to Fostering Catholic Identity, Mediating Effect of Work Engagement. It's available on ProQuest and on the library of Fordham University. This study is under, of course, the direction of Dr. Jerry Cataro, with my reader, Dr. Thanos, and Dr. Dennis Gahn. So thank you very much. If you have some question, please let us know. Send me an email. It's available there, and I will try to do whatever I can help, if I could be of help to you, to your organization, and it will be an honor to work with you in the future if given the chance to work with you. And thank you very much, and God bless you. Bye now.